Hi, I'm E.D. Lewis, and welcome back to my channel, E.D. Lewis Reviews, back with another video. Not a review this time. We're going to try something a little different. We're going to do a top 5. Now, granted, this is not necessarily, my absolute top 5, but it is 5 of my favorite vampire books or stories. So, let's get started. Number 1 on this list, and this is in no particular order, is the 1976 book Interview with the Vampire. Now, this is by Anne Rice, by the way. This is one of my favorite all-time vampire stories. It is. I've done a review on it, and I'll put links to all the reviews of the books I've done, which I've done reviews on all these but one. This, of course, is the life story of Louis de Pontedeuc, and how he became a vampire, how he becomes obsessed with death after the passing of his brother, and his run-in with the mysterious vampire Lestat. His, how do I want to describe it? His tangle with love, tragedy, loss, grief, depression, all those things that make up this classic by Anne Rice. As we see Louis, as he begins a new life with the vampire Lestat, the addition to their little family, Claudia, the child vampire, the betrayal, and the flight from the United States off to the old country. So, it's a great book. Absolutely one of my favorites, and the film adaptation with Brad Pitt and Kristen Dunst and Antonio Banderas and Tom Cruise. There's a lot of Anns, and Christian Slater is fantastic. Number 2 on this list is the all-time classic vampire story, not the original vampire story, but, pretty much what truly put vampires on the map, at least for modern ones, and that is Dracula by Bram Stoker from 1897. There's a little bit of glare. I'm trying to fight the glare. Everybody knows what this one's about too. It's that classic, kind of erotic-y in some ways. It's just kind of, if you read into it. Story of Jonathan Harker, who goes off to Transylvania to attend to his client who is making a purchase of property in Whitby, when he becomes trapped in the castle, and Count Dracula, his client, flees for the New World. Well, not the New World. New World for him, but a world that's fresh with the life's blood. Of course, this, is kind of it's a challenging read for many people, including myself. It was challenging when I was reading it, but it is a good story. It is kind of, in a way, it's kind of like a slow burn. And of course, you quickly are figuring out, these things, because Dracula's so, I can't think of a good word. He's so drenched in our culture. I don't know if that's the right term or not, that we know all about him. So it's not a mystery to us when we're reading it now. But, back in 1897, yeah, it was a mystery for sure. What is this, what is this guy? What's going on? So, but a good book, good gaslamp read, I think is what it's called. Next on my list, number 3, is the Dracula prequel, Dracul by Dacre Stoker and J.D. Barker from 2018. Now, of course, last year I talked a bunch about this book. It popped up in several of my videos. It's the story of Bram Stoker as a young boy and then a young man trying to discover the truth about his nanny, Ellen Crone, who disappeared mysteriously along with his childhood illness, and how it connects back to a 400-year-old vampire who's referred to as Dracul. So, I don't think I had to say much about this book if you've seen some of my other videos, because I've said how creepy it is, how cringy it is, and also how when I was reading it, I'd hear sounds and it'd make me kind of look up, and I was like, what was that? So, this book, I guess, kind of got under my skin a little bit, and it's very well written. I am not a fan of the ending, which I've said that before, and it's not... The part that I mean by the end is after the climactic, events, like kind of what drops off after that, and a little visitor that Bram Stoker gets at the end of the book. That whole thing and the kind of epilogue, those are the parts that I didn't care for personally, because I kind of feel like it just breaks away from the original classic a little bit. But that's my opinion, and I can't go more into that without spoiling the book further. Alright, next up, I have two more on this list. This one is a book from 2006. I do believe it was the first Dark Shadows novel that I ever read, and that is Lara Parker's The Salem Branch. It was her second book. It is the story of Barnabas Collins. He's beginning a new life with his fiancée, Julia Hoffman, when the woman who has bought the old house, who looks mysteriously like Angelique, starts to renovate it, starts to restore it back to its former glory, and a corpse is found in the basement of the old house. The corpse of a man who has a flesh wound on his neck, and he's dying of loss of blood. It's not a hugely vampire, because there's two stories going on. There's a present-day story in 1971, and then there's a story in 1692, as back in 1897 again. That's about Angelique in her original incarnation as Miranda Duval in Salem, which in the original series, it was not in Salem. Lara Parker did... she shifted locations for Miranda Duval, which is a great book, either way. So, Lara Parker has definitely, she's great at her writing, she has a great imagination, and, she's great. It's not vampire heavy, but there is a vampire in the book, and there was that vampire attack that I just mentioned. And lastly on my list is a book I don't physically have, and that is called 30 Days of Night. I originally just saw the movie, and I didn't like it. A friend of mine lent me the graphic novel a few years later and said, give it a try, and I said, okay, sure. So I read the graphic novel by Steve Niles and illustrated by Ben Templesmith, and I really liked it, so I may have to visit the movie sometime. But it is about a town in Alaska called Barrows that experiences 30 days of night, I think at least once a year. And on this particular event of 30 Days of Night, an army of vampires descends upon the town, creating carnage and feasting on its inhabitants. I did read the sequel also, and I liked it, but I liked this... I don't know if it's more of a sequel, I guess it was just the next volume in it, but I did like this first volume for sure, and I liked it better than the movie. But, I may revisit the movie sometime, and I may like it better. But those are my top 5 vampire book/story picks. I may do another one at a later date, I'm not sure, but we'll see. But anyway, that's all I got for you this time, and I'll see you next time with an all-new review. Take care and stay safe and stay spooky. Bye-bye.